You are watching or listening to Purham and Associates. For more information, go to rpurham.com or follow me on all social media platforms and subscribe at RPURHAM. Thanks. See you over there. Hey, good day to you all. Ooh, excuse me. Hey, welcome to Permanent Associates. I'm your host, Randy Purham. And happy pre-Thanksgiving to you all. It is Wednesday, and I know a lot of you are on the road or already made it to your destination in preparation for the festivities of tomorrow. But while you're here, while I got your attention, we have none other than a special guest with us today by the name of Scott MacLeod, and he is running for US Congressional District 10 out of Texas here. Scott MacLeod is a decorated veteran, strong conservative, and proven leader who has spent more than 3 decades defending America from foreign threats and fighting for Texas. He retired from the Army as a colonel after a 31-year career that culminated as a brigade commander, leading thousands of soldiers at home and abroad. When President Donald J. Trump gave the order, MacLeod led the 2,000-member Texas National Guard deployment to our southern border to stop illegal immigration, fight the drug cartels, and combat human trafficking. And when Hurricane Harvey devastated the Texas Gulf Coast, MacLeod led the 6,000 soldiers and Marines of Joint Task Force Harvey into the storm and one of the most destructive hurricanes in Texas history. Troops under his command protected property, enforced the rule of law, and were credited with saving thousands of lives. MacLeod is a graduate of the U.S. Army War College and spent 2 tours in Iraq where he commanded 1,000 soldiers who conducted combat patrols, prison inspections, and convoy escorts throughout Baghdad and central Iraq. In addition to his military service, MacLeod has been a 2-time CEO, most recently where he led a Texas-based tech company that developed training programs to help first responders and hospitals. MacLeod now devotes his time to building future servant leaders as the head of the private Christian school in Austin suburbs. MacLeod graduated from Sam Houston State University in Huntsville, where he met his wife Amy. They live in Austin, where they are raising 2 daughters, and they are proud parents of fighting Texas Aggie. Ladies and gentlemen, introducing some and the others, Mr. Scott MacLeod. Good morning, sir. Welcome.
Hey, good morning, Randy. Great to be here with you.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, after 31 years of serving our fine, great country, you decide to want to jump back in and serve in another capacity, and that is running for Congress. Why? Why would you want to do that?
I've served just about my whole life, and when I look at the great experiences that the Army and the good Lord gave me, I realize that I can actually contribute to many of the big problems that are facing our nation right now. As you pointed out, you want to talk about the border. I spent 4 years on the U.S. border, and then during Trump's first administration, I commanded his deployment here in Texas, 2,000 soldiers spread out between El Paso and Brownsville. You want to talk about whether we should have a FEMA? I worked directly with FEMA multiple times throughout my career. Saw them up close and have some strong and informed opinions about the best way to provide emergency support to our local communities. We want to talk about education and the challenges faced by parents and teachers and educators across the United States. I've spent 7 years in a Christian school. I've just learned a ton about those challenges and the great men and women who educate our children.
Mm-hmm.
You want to talk about what it's like to have a small business, and these are challenging times right now with high interest rates.
Mm-hmm.
And I've met a payroll. I've led a team, and so I've seen those things up close and personal. So really, Randy, I just want to give back. I've had an amazing life. This country's been so good to me. This state has been so good to me, and I'd like to offer my services back to the people of District 10.
Awesome, awesome. Yeah, you mentioned FEMA, and I I guess you could say a not a soft spot, but more of a thorn with FEMA. I did some work with them a few years back. It was actually a long time ago, but I did training with them and trained as an incident commander. Incident command, scene, whatever it's called it back then, with them and all that. And given light of what FEMA has gone through in these recent years, I want to get your thoughts on what the future of FEMA should look like in terms of maybe it being decentralized and state-led versus government-led, and maybe just having like a call center, in DC, and they just request resources and things of that nature. I want to get your thoughts on that, sir.
Well, all disasters are local. Okay. And so for the first 72 to 96 hours of any disaster, it's going to be your local emergency response. FEMA is designed to come in at D+4, D+5. They bring in what are called emergency support functions, which are bundled capabilities, things like power, security, other things. And so when you think about FEMA, you have to understand what they are. They're a giant federal asset that's designed to come into a state after a governor requests them and then provide support. Mm-hmm. I think that there's talk right now about maybe Chief Kidd, who leads our emergency response efforts here in Texas. Maybe he might be a candidate to take over FEMA. I think that's an incredible choice.
Oh, yeah.
That's one of the most experienced emergency managers in the United States. And I suspect that if we put good leaders in charge of FEMA, they're going to build the right organizational design in order to provide the best support, not just to Texas, but to all of our states. Mm-hmm. And so that's my opinion on that. I think it comes down to leadership and experience.
Oh, yeah. Definitely.
And Chief Kidd has the leadership and experience to do it right.
Yeah. No doubt. Yeah, you touched on education there, and given the debacles of the Department of Education, and I guess you could say the defunding of it, and the subsequent, I guess you could say the abolishment of the Department of Education. I'm a proponent of that, me personally. But I want to get your thoughts on how that will look, as a potential member of Congress going in and seeing that, okay, education at the state level versus from the federal level, how that should look in terms of resources, management, and all of that. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I'm afraid that the Department of Education, like many bureaus and departments at the federal level, has basically become a self-licking ice cream cone. Mm-hmm. It has ballooned in size. It's difficult to really understand what they've done with those billions of taxpayer dollars when you look at our education metrics as compared to other nations. I don't doubt that there's good men and women up there, but again, I think it comes down to leadership. Yeah. And I do believe that the states can probably do it better. We have amazing and highly educated educational leaders here in Texas. I think that they probably have a better understanding of what's happening down here. Now, can the federal government play a supportive role? They probably can, but I think things definitely have to change. I'm all for putting the power back into the state so that we can educate our kids the way we want to, mm-hmm. and the way we deem best. And I think we've got the knowledge and the experience to do that.
Mm-hmm. No, I agree 100%. I always found it strange that somebody in Washington, D.C. sitting behind a computer, or in a cubicle somewhere tucked off, nobody knows who they are or anything of that nature. Even their own boss don't even know who they are. And they're telling, another state, what kind of educational programs they should have and what test scores should look like and all this. Is like, huh? No.
Well,
It,
Randy, I think something to think about there is too the scope of the problem set, right?
yeah.
There's more than 1,000 public school districts just in Texas.
Texas. Hmm.
So, when you think about a federal bureau and its ability or department, its ability to sit up in DC and manage the educational needs of a nation of 350 plus million people. That's not all the school children, obviously, but
Right.
those parents are involved, et cetera. And so very few organizations could manage that effectively. And so I think we get great inefficiencies at the federal level. And that's why resources should go down to the states. That where'd they get that money anyway?
Yeah.
Those are U.S. taxpayer dollars.
Exactly.
That's our money. And so why not better to spend our money in our state under the control of our educators here who are telling us the best way to do it?
Yeah. Yeah. No doubt. I I guess you could say reverberate the words of former President Ronald Reagan there, his 9 words, I'm from the government, I'm here to help, and it doesn't seem to be that way. But I want to touch on your district, on District 10. As we have, we did meet in person before, and I was telling you about District 10 last year, how it looked prior to the redistricting and everything. It's a massive district. For ladies and gentlemen that don't know what District 10 of Texas looks like, back then, prior to redistricting, it ran from northwest Travis County all the way across up to Katy, Texas. It was spanning 13 counties back then. Now, I believe it's slightly shifted. I want to say a little bit more north, if I'm not mistaken, and shrunk down just a smidget there. But it's still a massive district. So tell us, as you've been out on the campaign trail and talking to voters, talking to residents, talking to non-voters even, tell us what you've been hearing and seeing on the ground throughout the district, and what's motivating, or I should say inspiring to you as you talk to these folks.
Well, this is the part of the job I really like. And, when I was in Baghdad commanding a battalion, it was my responsibility to do what we called battlefield circulation, which was to get in a gun truck or an MRAP and get out and go across the city to visit my 18 and 19-year-old soldiers. And so I've really enjoyed this part of the campaign. We've been to the furthest eastern side of the district. The very first stop was out in Trinity, Texas. And what I'm finding is that these folks are very aware of how a good representative can best serve them. So, for example, in Trinity, they lost their acute critical care facility because the feds withdrew their funding. So now if someone's in a tragic car accident out there, they've got a hope that they can survive until they get to Huntsville, which is about 30 minutes away. Yeah. So that's a very practical example of how a representative can best serve the needs of those folks. Over in Walker County, Walker County right now is exploding. Their rate of growth is exceeding their availability of resources and infrastructure. And so they've got some real challenges over in Walker County right now with planning that out and doing that the right way. Yeah. So those are the kinds of things I'm learning. Yesterday, I was in Brazos County at the Chamber of Commerce Ag Breakfast. That was amazing. We were reminded that 96% of farms in the United States are family farms, not big corporate farms.
True.
And so thinking about the people that grow our food and ensure that we've got the safest and the most affordable and the most abundant food supply in the world, what do we have to do to protect that? I've been around the world. That's not common in every nation. True. I've been in a lot of places where they don't have an abundant food supply. So we've got to be aware of those types of issues. And that's what a representative is for, is to get out there and look people in the eye, spend time with them, and prove to them that we care about their interests. So I'm willing to make the laps around the district. I'm running the wheels off my old F-150. I don't know if it's going to survive the campaign. But I'm going to prove to as many people as I can that I know how to do this, and I'm willing to do it. I'm not just going to D.C. to hang out on the cocktail circuit and just hang out with the big donors. Right. I mean, I've already had one successful career. I really care about serving the needs of our people, and I want to go up there and do it right and make sure that we've got good men and women up there trying to do the right thing for our citizens.
Yeah, yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, Scott, you talk about Baghdad, and it kind of tickled me a little bit there because I was in Baghdad in '03. Back then it was called we called it FOB. Actually, it was Camp Deutsch, and then it changed to FOB Slayer when we was preparing to leave from there, and right there across from Camp Liberty, and you know back then things were different. Like you said, the shortages of resources. Walking around, we had half uniforms, and what I mean by half uniforms, it was like our tops were BDUs and the bottoms were DCUs, and we just had the army was poorly funded back then, and we finally started, and we was also carrying our ammo in our cargo pocket, so we didn't have enough magazines, so we went in there like half cocked, and it was funny times, but we eventually got outfitted properly and everything else as the deployment went on, but going through coming out of 2003 in Baghdad. And you came on. I believe you came later on in 2006. I believe it was.
Yeah. So my first deployment was in '08
Okay.
up at MacLeod, and then my second deployment was in and around Baghdad, and that would have been 9 and 10, I believe.
Okay. So we was actually in theater at the same time. That's the crazy part because in '08 when I came back in '08. Actually, it was in '09, '10. We was in Mosul, Falmarez, and then the 2010, 11. I was in Talil, and so we was in the theater at the same time. You're out, as a officer, like you said, doing battlefield circulation, checking on the soldiers and everything else. You've seen the adversity. You've seen the challenges that not only the soldiers were facing, but you also seen the challenges that the civilian populations in these areas were facing. Talk to us about like some of the things that you're bringing to Congress and how you would like to, help implement some of your ideas to help better the lives of your constituency.
Absolutely. Well, you know what? Having an informed opinion from having been around the world and walked through, nations, third world nations, and seen how other people, unfortunately, have to live. We need to understand that what we've got in the United States is actually quite special, and it's got to be protected. Now, we should not assume based on our history that we couldn't face some really hard times, especially economically, and understand how that would affect our middle class and our people here. So I think that's the first way is it's a practical awareness based on real experience of having seen the world and know that what we have in the United States is quite special. It was given to us by our founders, and it's our job to protect it, to ensure that this American way of life is available for our kids and our grandkids. There's four elements of power, national power, Randy: diplomacy, information, the big M, which is the military, and E, economic.
Mm-hmm.
And so one of the things I've told folks is, China is probably never going to sail up the Gulf of America and invade Galveston Island. Probably not going to happen.
Right, yeah.
But I can guarantee you, based on my studies of the Chinese, that they wake up every morning trying to figure out how to undermine the United States interest and how to become the dominant superpower in the world. Yeah. So we want people up in D.C. who actually understand the threat, they understand the risk to the United States, and are willing to engage at that level, not just spend all their time making TikTok videos trying to raise funding. And so, someone's going to Congress from District 10. Someone's going to go to Congress. The person that we choose is going to have a lot to say about the way we live in District 10 and in this state and nation. And we got to get this right. We've got to start sending people up who have some experience, who are capable of doing some of these things. Yeah. So, that's one of the first big ways I think I can help is to use actual real world experience to engage in these national dialogues about these very, very important issues.
Mm-hmm. No, absolutely. And thank you for pointing that out because it is important. And the idea that people don't really understand. Well, I should say it's sad that the idea that people today really don't understand the functionalities of their member of Congress. They think that, oh, we just elected somebody to be part of the elite class and we'll never hear from them again. Okay, whatever. Yeah, but it's like, no, this person is representing your needs, your wants, your desires per se. They're sitting down. They have to manage the budget of the nation and figure out how this budget is going to be incorporated into your district and what have you. And so a lot of people they tend to miss that now. And given the light of what's going on now in Congress with these stopgap bills and these continuing resolutions and everything else, which we're about to come into another fight in January, the end of January, with another continuing resolution. Hopefully, there's no funkiness with that. I want to get your thoughts on how Congress should navigate the next continuing resolution. I'm a proponent personally of we need to have a balanced budget amendment, and that Congress needs to figure out how to do that and slash this wasteful spending and everything else. But go ahead with your thoughts on how this next continuing resolution might look and everything else.
Well, I'm with you. I think we need a balanced budget. I'm not sure many Americans realize that a continuing resolution is a emergency measure and that it abrogates the responsibility to actually sit down and do the budget the right way. A budget is nothing more than a financial plan. Okay. A budget is designed to take limited resources and apply them to the most important areas. And so by annually passing continuing resolutions, instead of going through the correct and proper budgeting process, Congress is abrogating its responsibility to help plan the future of the nation. Mm-hmm. And so, doggone it, that's what they're elected for. That's what they need to be doing. And I'm afraid that because many Americans don't fully understand the intricacies of the federal budget, that Congress is getting a pass on this. This has to change. We don't have unlimited resources.
Right.
This is absolutely ridiculous. And so transitioning into the subject of debt, my children and grandchildren's future, and yours too, are being mortgaged by the current Congress. Mm-hmm. We cannot continue to accrue the amount of national debt that we have and not think that that's not going to threaten the future of our nation. That's just foolishness.
Yeah.
And so we've got to fix that. And we can do that through the purse strings. We shouldn't be spending more money than we have. Okay. I mean, what American family gets away with that year after year after year? Yeah. And then we saw what happened in 2008. We basically had to print money. Money began dropping out of the sky from DC. And so that wasn't good. So, what Congress their primary responsibility is to pass that budget. And part of that means planning, doing it the right way. And I don't think that it's been done the right way. I think that's got to get fixed. And I think it undermines the future of our country. Because again, going back to the four elements of national power, economics is one of them. And I wish we could get the attention of more people and realize how dire the situation actually is when it comes to our economy. And you know what? You talk about what President Trump has done. A friend of mine, very high in the Federal Reserve System, and spent some time with him. And he told me that during President Trump's first administration, the president had China on the ropes. Okay. He had boxed in China, put them into a corner, and was the first president in decades that knew how to handle China. Guys, we got to handle China. Yeah. They wake up every morning thinking about how to become the dominant superpower. Yeah. And we can't be naive about this.
I agree. That's the problem. America is so, I guess you'll say, infant-minded or immature in terms of how things operate on the from a global perspective, that we tend to not even want to pay attention to these things. I can guarantee you almost every Chinese national in China, they're paying attention to global affairs and what's going on and how to integrate themselves into those different systems on a daily basis, like you just mentioned, And so I look at that and I'm just like, geez, we're not gonna last very much longer with the way the trajectory that we're on in terms of how our society functions. And you mentioned members of Congress not doing their jobs basically, but there are members of Congress that sit here and they're trying to I guess you could say swing the pendulum of attacking President Trump on a day-to-day basis. And recently, we have some members out of Congress that produced a video through TikTok that talks about disobeying or follow orders, following illegal orders, not following illegal orders from the president. And I want to get your thoughts on that because in your 31 years and my 22, I've never seen a member of Congress tell soldiers that don't follow XYZ orders or don't know what orders to follow and everything else. That has never been a discussion. And so I just want to get your thoughts on that, sir.
Yeah, I think it's easy. They need to stay in their lane. The reason you've never seen it is because it makes no sense. Why would members of the legislative branch interfere with the authorities of the executive branch?
Mm-hmm.
Why do they think it's okay to basically speak directly to our armed forces and imply that there are illegal orders being given? Now, I don't know every detail about it, but so far I haven't seen any evidence of an illegal order. And I think the problem we got here is understanding that, once you let the genie out of the bottle on this, then theoretically this could become more common. So, for example, do we go back during COVID? Would it have been okay at that time for Republican members of Congress to tell the armed forces that they should disobey their orders? No.
Yeah.
The legislative branch has no right or authority, and they're really undermining the executive branch, and they're undermining the armed forces because now they're sending a confusing signal. Yeah. They're creating discord within the armed forces. Shouldn't do it. Mm-hmm. It was very immature. You have to ask, why did they do that? Are they just trying to score political points? It makes no sense. I mean, never in my career, just like you said, never did we see that happen. Mm-hmm. And there's a reason why we didn't see it happen, because it shouldn't.
Exactly. Excuse me. It was interesting because I assumed, based on what they were saying, that they were tying that to the drug boats being ran out of the Caribbean down there, the southern coast there, and being destroyed by our armed forces. And some on the left are arguing that these are illegal operations. I'm assuming they're trying to tie that to that, but as you pointed out, they have not pointed out what is an illegal order. Now, that impressionable young mind or that private or that's headstrong lieutenant that's fresh out of school and wants to prove himself, these two groups, they will look at that or see these videos and say, you know what, they're right. I don't agree with destroying random civilian boats in the ocean because they're carrying drugs. So I'm good. That's an illegal order in my book. So I'm gonna disobey that. Now, on the flip side of that, they do that. I don't see any member of Congress running to their aid and saying, well, I help take care of your family while you're in prison and all of that. That's not going to happen. So I'm with you on they need to stay in their lane because they're jeopardizing potentially the careers of these service members by false flagging something that doesn't exist. Because we both know, when you're instructed to do something in the military, it went through an apparatus of protocols, legal reviews, and everything else. No one's just going to sit up and say, "Oh, hey, go out there and blow that hill up, and don't worry about the civilians that's out there." No one's going to do that. So it's just crazy to me. But I want to get your thoughts on that. How these members of Congress can potentially be ruining the lives of these soldiers that would follow that idea.
Yeah, absolutely. And it shouldn't have happened. It shouldn't happen again. We've already got enough lawyers in this country. We certainly don't need any more. You remember what we called them, jailhouse lawyers.
Uh-huh.
We don't need folks trying to interfere with the authorities of the commander in chief. There's a military justice system for that, and those are well-trained legal experts that are experts in military law and the application and rules for use of force.
Yeah.
And so we need to leave that to them. And this was just really irresponsible on the part of these congressmen and senators who did that.
Yeah. No doubt, no doubt. Scott, tell us, ladies and gentlemen. Well, I'll let Scott tell you all where you can find him and follow him and support him in his campaign. So tell us, any final thoughts you may have, and your closing pitch to the voters, and where they can follow you and support you, sir.
Well, I think that the number one question that voters should be asking right now is, why does Scott really want to do this? And when we ask that question, what we're talking about is motive principle. Okay, what are my motives? And I'm going to tell you a quick story. When I thought in the final weeks leading up to my decision to run for office, I reached out to a friend who's a prominent attorney here in Austin, very well known. And I asked him, I said, hey, what do you think about me running for Congress? And here was his response. I think this is what people need to understand. This is what this legal expert told me. He said, Scott, I don't know why anyone would want to go to Congress unless it was to get rich by insider trading. And so that's what people think of Congress. And we've got to change that impression. The way we change it is by sending men and women up there who want to do right by the people of this country and who have the requisite experience and education and character to pull that off. So I want to go up there to work. I want to go up there. I'm putting myself out there. This isn't going to be the best schedule for my family interest, et cetera. It's a challenging and demanding schedule that takes me away from my family. But I've done that in the Army. I'm willing to do it now, and I at least want to give voters a choice. Mm-hmm. We need to really ask these candidates, why are you doing this? And we also need to ask these candidates, why haven't you signed the pledge that Scott MacLeod signed, which is to not conduct insider trading while a member of Congress? Many of them have signed the term limit pledge, but they have not accepted my challenge to pledge to not conduct insider trading. Why is that? I think that's an important question that folks need to answer.
Absolutely. I 100% agree with you there. And thank you for that, because that is that's a hot button issue. And we'll get more into that, some other time. But Scott, thank you for being here today. I truly appreciate your time, and enjoy Thanksgiving with your family. The next few days, it should be quiet. Air quotes here.
Yeah.
It should be quiet. Ladies and gentlemen, go ahead, sir.
You too, Randy. I just wanted to say thank you for having me on.
Absolutely.
It's been great getting to know you. And you mentioned my website. It's scott4texas.com. Scott with the number 4 and then tx.com.
Yes.
And hey, we're a grassroots campaign, so we'd love to get some contributions if people are hearing what they want to hear from me, and we could use your help. So thanks so much.
Absolutely. Yes. Thank you, and enjoy, and be safe out there, and talk to you soon.
You too, Randy. Blessings.
Bless. Ladies and gentlemen, it's Scott MacLeod. Hey, check them out. Website for those on the Spotify and the Substack listening in. This is Scott for TX, the number 4 TX.com, and you can check out his website. Great guy, very, very well rounded. So that's what you want out of a member of Congress. Somebody who understands the different levels and scopes of things in the world. And have that experience. I remember back in the day that when you was looking at presidents, and we all wanted a president that served in the military. We wanted a member of Congress that served in the military, because we understood that somebody that served in the military actually has a well-rounded experience, understands the world, understands their country and everything else, and things that are needed to be done. And they're a workhorse. So we understood that. Now we just kind of we're just going to check the box on the ballot and it's whatever. And no, we need to stop that. I'm not saying that, every member of Congress should be a part of the military. I'm not saying that, but I'm just saying that we have to look at the quality and the background of these candidates that are running, and say, hey, you know what? Out of this baker, out of this doctor or this lawyer, and this, somebody that's not, doesn't have a job at all, type of thing, who's the best candidate type of thing, who has the most well-rounded experience of life to represent my community. And so those are the things that we need to get back to. And for some reason, we gotten away from that. We are looking at identity politics more than, who's bringing what to the table and being the best representative for, their community. So I'm gonna get off that soapbox now. But once again, Scott4TX.com. You can check them out. And folks, like I said, it's Thanksgiving Eve. I will highly recommend that you all take the time to enjoy your family, your friends, and stay out of trouble. Don't do anything stupid. And be the one that talk about politics and religion at the dinner table. Bring it up. Screw them. They'll be all right. Well, with that, folks, hey, I'm going to holler at you all later. Y'all be safe out there. And God bless you all. And I'll see y'all either next week or sometime. I don't know. All right. Take care. I hope you enjoyed today's program. You can follow, like, share, subscribe on Spotify, Substack, Rumble, YouTube, Facebook, and your news. And also, you can download Let the Truth Be Told app on your favorite streaming platforms, such as Fire Stick, Apple TV, and Roku. Take care. God bless.